Hello everyone, welcome to another Mechabellum video with me, Partyfoot. This one's going to be a bit more of a short episode, but it does highlight some of the really cool tactics of Mechabellum, I thought, at least, from my limited perspective. So here we go. We're trying to start with some different stuff, step away from some of the tanks and maybe, well, Mustang is described as a tank, but doesn't really give me a tank vibe, to be honest. And go for some of these, maybe other units. I don't think Mustangs are really good as a starting unit, but they are good overall. Our opponent goes for a round one hacker. How interesting. When I first saw what he had done after we deployed, I was like, that's just so interesting. You can get a hacker in round one, can't you? Our opponent is, of course, that quick supply specialist. What an interesting strategy. We've never seen something like this before, and it'll be interesting to see how it works. Now, interestingly, in this case, Mustang's not great for a hacker to go against, right? Small units. You do find that a lot of your army will focus on the unit that's being converted suddenly and kind of lose potentially some DPS on the enemy, and maybe it confuses their shooting a bit. So it can probably be a bit better than it might seem initially, but it's still not great. But this is actually a pretty interesting kind of setup too, because 2 Tarantula has a lot of chaff clear, and once you've cleared all the chaff, anything that's left, the hacker may well be able to take over. So, interesting idea. Let's see how it works. We went for a wide start, so quite a decent amount of our flank goes over to engage the enemy, and the eyes are directly onto the Tarantula. The hacker is in a nice position behind them, though, as we get the tower. Don't have enough units to really make a huge difference, but we do take out that Tarantula, which is quite good for us. And yes, the last few seconds here, those Mustangs really chewing through those fangs, unfortunately for them. And as you can see, each time one gets converted, everyone stops and kind of turns around and takes a shot. So, it does slow us down for sure. Let's see how we can do. The second tower falling. The Crawler's doing a great job of making it over there. That does allow us to take down the Tarantula. And with the Crawlers coming in, I think the hacker is not going to be able to overwhelm that. Still, such a cool strategy. I really liked what my opponent did here. Definitely mixing it up. And maybe if I'd gone for an aggressive position with sabers or something, this would work potentially well. The sabers are going to kill those Tarantulas pretty quick, but I'd be interested to see the different scenarios you could go for. Now, I immediately thought, oh, what do we get here? A Wraith would be quite nice. What if we headbutt him with a Wraith? These units don't shoot up, and my Wraith does have armor. And all he's got here is fangs for defense. He goes for another hacker on the other side. This one, it doesn't have the same chaff clear that this one does, so we'll see how it works. There's that armor on the Wraith. But our opponent puts down a shield, which is pretty expensive round 2. But he's thinking to himself, yeah, okay, the only thing I could possibly have happen is maybe I put some sabers here, and then this blocks them long enough for one of them to get hacked, maybe, that kind of thing. Maybe he's played this strategy out. A shield has a lot of HP early in the game. So if we were to play something here to deal with it, or I guess potentially also missiles, of course, the average person may also drop a missile. That makes a lot of sense. He's probably not going to be that happy to see an armored Wraith right here. Although the shield was not expected either, so his Tarantula do make it outside the shield, which is super important for our success. On this side, the hacker doesn't have so much chaff clear. It doesn't have really anything in front of it, so it just goes down. This hacker is protected quite well in the shield still, and he's converting our Void Eyes and actually developing a little army on the other side of our own units to use against us. In fact, these Mustangs starting to make a little bit of an impact on the Wraith, but the Wraith now working its way through the shield and taking out that hacker, which means the threat really is pretty minimal from this point. I don't think these fangs are going to be able to kill this Wraith. Eventually it's going to make it through the shield and then slaughter them. They're all... I'm sorry, what's about to happen to you? Oh, gosh. Oh, it's a massacre. They tried so hard and they got so little done. That's sad to see. Well, we love fangs. Sometimes they have a hard time. in this game. Although I guess Fangs can now beat crawlers. Sorry, crawlers. That's not the case. They can now beat Void Eyes as a 100 unit versus a 100 unit, right? So I don't think that was previously possible for those guys. So you know, the Fangs are on the up. We got to improve Stormcaller. We noticed that this shield, he's going to put that down again, right? Of course. Elite Stormcaller, level 3. Grab one of these bad boys. Hello. And we realized that we'd leveled so much stuff that it would be worth just going all in for this. Putting down a missile this time just in case he didn't shield. And then the missiles coming in to, whoops, break that shield down, expose his lines directly to the Wraith, which is taking more damage this time because of the Farseer, but with the shield down, we don't have to wait for 5 minutes, and we're just immediately through and onto his Farseer. The other side crumbles instantly too, and we win. Unfortunately, it's at that moment, I believe, that our opponent decides to quit the game, having felt that that was probably enough. But it just highlights how Mechabellum has a really cool and really deep variety in what you can do. This was a turn 1 hacker flanked by tarantulas. You know, I bet you there's a bunch of stuff that just goes, what? And gets totally steamrolled by that. And then putting shields on top, knowing that the missiles could be coming in. But then at the same time, you know, having this armored Wraith option just really counter this entire block of units. And not only that, but, you know, have incredible clear against the Fangs, as well as, you know, a decent amount of damage to eventually take these down as well. And the Stormcaller to just delete the shield, just destroy it instantly. This level 3 Stormcaller has that damage in that initial burst to actually, you know, at a lower level it would have done significantly less, taken several volleys, then our Wraith would have been dead. Rhino just coming in to take a bonus, not particularly good against these hackers already. So I don't think this hacker was so good. So maybe this strategy needs some sort of specific follow-up. Like, he needed the Farseer on this side to take out the Wraith. That would have been fine if not for this card, probably. Farseer in the back here. Maybe he should have continued to extend this position rather than isolating some forces over on this side. But yeah, our opponent has chosen to leave the game, unfortunately, which, you know, it can be pretty frustrating going for something unique like this, maybe, and then having your opponent react in a way that really does shut it down. The ticking is annoying. Anyway, thank you for joining, and we will catch you next time for another replay in the future of Mechabellum, and yeah, this is Partyfoot signing out for another video.